Being able to determine strong versus weak is a skill one must master in order to be able to apply effectively and efficiently the Yuen method on themselves and others. If you're not able to determine strong versus weak, then you will not progress in the Yuen method, and your results with the Yuen methods will be inconsistent. So there are two things in the Yuen method that one needs to master in order to get consistent results on themselves and others. And the first one is determining strong versus weak, and the second one is the strengthening and deletion process. But most people that are not getting really good results with the Yuen method, what I've found is that they're not able to determine the difference between strong versus weak. And therefore, they are plateauing with the Yuen method. They take more and more Yuen method courses, and they still are not, and they're still not improving. When they are, their skills in the Yuen method is not improving. And one of the main reasons I found is that they're not able to determine strong versus weak. Now, over the years, I found like three main ones that come up a lot. Three main ways that people are using to determine what is strong versus weak, and I'll talk about these three. I'm sure there are others, but these are the three main ones that I've heard over and over again. And one is like using emotions, so meaning they use a good emotion versus a bad emotion. So if it's a good emotion, then they say it's strong. If it's a bad emotion, they say it's weak. In the Yuen method, we do not use emotions to guide us. So whatever we're doing is not guided by good emotions versus bad emotions. So again, everything is neutrality in the Yuen method. So that is an incorrect way. So if you're using a good emotion versus bad emotions when you're applying the Yuen method and you're using the strong versus weak based on emotions, and that's a good reason why you're not doing well with the Yuen method. Another one that people use is what will be on the imaginary or imagination realm, and so this is more like light. So seeing light versus seeing darkness, or different colors of light. In the Yuen method, we don't use imagery. So that will be another reason why when you're applying that as strong versus weak, you're not seeing results with the Yuen method practice. So when you're applying Yuen method on yourself and others, and you're using that to determine strong versus weak, that will be using imagery. That will be another reason why you're not getting results, and that is actually an incorrect way of determining what is strong versus weak. Another one is that I've heard often is like heart opening versus heart closing. So if the heart opens up, that will be a good thing. Heart closing is like a bad thing, supposedly. So they say heart opening is strong, heart closing is weak. That is another incorrect way of determining strong versus weak in the Yuen method. So that's another way that if you're using that, that's another reason why you're not getting a consistent results with the Yuen method, or only getting partial results in the Yuen method. So to recap the three main ones that I've heard over the years that are incorrect ways of determining strong versus weak. One is using emotions, good emotions versus bad emotions. Another one is using imagery like light versus dark. And the third one is heart opening, heart center opening, heart center closing. Those are three incorrect ways of using to determine what is strong versus weak when applying it to the Yuen method. So now there's one that a lot of people use, and this one is one of the reasons why many use it is because in the olden days, that's what it was taught by Dr. Yuen, and that is muscle testing. It's no longer no longer teaches that anymore, and because it's not as accurate. And for me personally, I'm familiar with many different types of muscle testing techniques for at least over 11 years now. And I have found, based on my own practice and based on observations and seeing other people use it, I have found it not to be accurate at all. It's really not a very good tool. It's only good with like very, very few people are able to master muscle testing. But in the majority, I would say over 90% of the time that I've seen it being used, I have not seen it to be an accurate tool. So you want to make sure you have an accurate tool to test something, because if whatever you're using is not accurate, then your results will be affected, and meaning that when you apply it, you will not get consistent results. You'll get the opposite. So muscle testing, I know some people are still using it today because they really having a hard time of determining what is strong versus weak. Now, in my opinion, and from what I know, if you are able to determine the feeling between strong versus weak, you will throw away muscle testing pretty much immediately because you won't need it anymore. And the way I teach it is so simple and easy that most people pick it up really quickly. And I have tested it also, the way I teach it, on people who have never used Ewan method before or are not familiar with Ewan method. And I only taught them the strong versus weak, and they were able to learn it and use it and apply it fairly quickly and easily. So to me, if you have another technique that is fairly easy to use and is simple to pick up, then you don't need muscle testing. You won't even look at it. All right, you'll just do the strong. You'll just do it the way the feeling strong versus weak. Now, the way I teach is I teach in layers. So when if you come to me and you want to learn how to determine strong versus weak, so the way what would happen is I will teach you in layers, and I will give you homework, and you do the homework. If you don't do the homework, you won't be able to progress. So when you do the homework, you progress to the next stage, and by the time you complete the you mastering strong versus weak program, by that time you pretty much would have mastered strong versus weak. That's how simple and easy it is to learn the way I teach it specifically. So just to recap really quickly, the three main ways that the ones that I've heard a lot that are incorrect ways of determining strong versus weak is one is using good emotions versus bad emotions. Another one is using like imagery, light versus dark, and and the other one is using heart center opening versus closing. So those three, and then the muscle testing, which is I know a lot of people using. If you can stay away from that, if you learn the other way, you'll find that the results in your Ewan method would skyrocket even more. So again, if you would want to master the Ewan method and be able to apply, and get consistent results, you must be able to determine what is strong versus weak as a foundation, and you must master that first before you can master the Ewan method itself. So if you're interested and you'd like to do you'd like to take the program with me, you mastering strong versus weak, just go to my website. It's thrive2infinity.com, and I think just look for one of the links there. It's on the private sessions because it is a private session. It's a private group of sessions. So just click on the private session section.